Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents One Night Stand with Benefits by Amanda Usen. Narrated by Amber O'Rourke. Chapter 1. Brittany Adair needed to pull herself together. She had a job to do. Bring the fun, bring the thunder. Make Clara and Zane's combined bachelor and bachelorette party unforgettable, which she couldn't do from the ladies' room, even if she had hired a great band, kick-ass burlesque performers, and a bartender guaranteed to pour rainbows and glitter out of his cocktail shakers. Checking her email had been a mistake, but she'd been so sure that her loan application had been approved when she'd seen the notification. There are other banks. Her vivid fantasies of telling her parents she didn't need their money to launch her wedding planning business would come true. Wedding wherever was going to happen. She'd make sure of it. The business plan she'd spent the last 2 months perfecting was awesome. There were so many brides in New York searching for a venue they could afford in a city where everything cost the earth. Her idea of creating a simple yet highly customized pop-up event wherever the couple wanted to celebrate was a good one. She knew it. And as soon as she found the right bank, she'd prove it. She was going to make a lot of people happy, and she was going to do it without tapping into the precious Adair family fortune. She didn't need her parents' money to succeed, and she certainly didn't need to marry one of the many men her mother kept inviting to family dinners. I'll make my own fortune, thank you very much. But first, she had to lock this party down like the professional she wanted to be. She washed her hands and checked the mirror to see what she needed to fix. Her hair was behaving, the perfectly healthy, poker-straight black tresses highlighted with chunks of navy blue falling in smooth waves to her waist. Check. Flawless airbrushed makeup? Check. Lip stain in a shade called Wrap It Around Him? Little black dress, fuck me heels? Check, check, check. Bulletproof. She met her own gaze in the mirror and saw disappointment, bright and clear. So she blinked and shook her hair back. That window to the soul stuff was bullshit. She practiced a few smiles, made a few faces, buried her frustration and dismay. There. Nothing in her eyes except genuine delight in her best friend's happiness. Get back out there, tiger. The door opened and she jumped, caught in the act of giving herself a big fake grin and a double thumbs up in the mirror. But it was only Clara. You've been in here for 20 minutes. Clara was rocking her riot of platinum curls in a sexy updo that displayed her lovely shoulders. She wore an indigo crocheted corset dress with a paler blue linen skirt covered in embroidered flowers. It was one of a kind, and Brittany had seen it come to life in parts and pieces under Clara's talented hands over the last 6 months. There was no end to her friend's creativity. But Britt was delighted Clara's fiber business had become so successful. "Girl, you look stunning," Brittany said. Clara's blue eyes narrowed. "And you look sad." "I do not. I just gave myself a killer pep talk." "Which was necessary, why?" Her best friend arched a delicate brow. "Because I thought I'd be leasing office space and schmoozing wedding vendors this week. And instead I'm going to be looking for a job to make ends meet." "No loan for me." "God damn it." "Thank you." Profane sympathy was the best kind. "I'll figure it out. I don't want to think about it right now. I want to celebrate. My best friend in the whole damn world, who may have abandoned me to live her dream on the beach in Cali, but is still a daily part of my life, thank all the saints, is getting married." "But—" "Nope," Brittany cut her off. "We're going to party." She grabbed Clara's shoulders and spun her toward the door, then paused. "Do you need to pee, or were you just coming in here after me?" "Just you, babe. But are you sure?" "So sure." She pushed Clara out the door and down the short hall, toward the enormous bar that lorded it over the dining room. Standing room was closed to the public tonight. but Clara and Zane had invited half of Manhattan. The circular booths that dotted the room were packed, and Brittany had to raise her voice to be heard above the roar of people having a good time. "Tequila?" "Always." Clara gave her a one-arm side hug. "The wizard behind the bar will probably serve it in cactus shot glasses topped with tiny sombreros. Maybe he'll pull out a guitar and serenade us." "That's why I hired him. He puts on a good show, right?" "Incredible. Thank you for doing this." "You're welcome," Brittany said. "You know I'd hide a body for you. Throwing a party is easy." "Only when you do it," Clara snorted. "Some of us suck at it." The bartender was in the middle of a complicated dance of shakers, bottles, and glasses when they arrived at the bar. "Ladies, what'll it be?" he asked, shooting Brittany a grin as he poured flaming coffee into a sugar-rimmed glass. "Patron shots, lime, no salt, no judgment," Britt grinned. "You're doing a great job, by the way." "The best for the best." He topped the coffee with whipped cream and cocoa powder before setting it in front of an older woman wearing lipstick that was about 20 years too dark. Then he poured their simple shots with a flourish and followed them up with a dish of limes and a wink. Britt handed one brimming shot glass to Clara and picked up the other. "To love. I'm so damn happy for you." Zane and Clara were meant for each other. Soulmates. Everything she loved about wedding planning. "To love," Clara agreed. "Messy, wonderful, and full of unexpected opportunities." They carefully clinked glasses and then poured the excellent tequila straight down their throats. "Speaking of opportunity, there's a hot guy behind you staring at your ass," Clara said, dropping her lime into her shot glass, then settling them both on the bar. "Subtle he is not." Casually, Britt shifted to face the bar until a dark-suited figure entered her peripheral vision. Zing. Her instincts came online. She kept her body in profile but turned her head, intrigued, taking in his broad shoulders, the hand curled possessively around his Manhattan, his sensual lips, fair skin set off by a sexy 5 o'clock shadow, and the hooded gaze still trained directly on her ass. Holy hotness. Just what she needed to take her mind off her troubles and get into the party spirit. His gaze traveled up, but stalled at her chest, and she hid a smile. "Come on, dude, where are your manners?" She arched her brows, not minding the wait because he was seriously fine, and she had a feeling things were looking up. His unruly hair was slightly too long, contrasting with his impeccably tailored suit and increasing his appeal. What did that thick, wavy hair feel like? Was he as big as he looked, sprawled at the end of the bar like he owned it? She wanted to find out. Finally, his gaze locked on hers, and she let her lips curve. His eyes were an arresting shade of pale blue, and his gaze swept down, touching every part of her before it returned to meet hers. She caught a brief flash of stark hunger and something raw, bare, and unleashed that sent a shiver through her. Then he shook his head ever so slightly, an expression of disgust twisting his full lips. He looked away, like she had somehow offended him by catching him looking at her. "Excuse me? What the actual hell?" She blinked hard, chin jerking back, smile flatlining. How dare he dismiss her like that? Especially after taking such a long look. "You don't know me," she wanted to protest, which was ridiculous, and true. He didn't know her. She didn't know him. And she didn't care what some random stranger thought of her carefully curated appearance. She was bulletproof. "Rude." She turned back to Clara, who was looking at her phone. "Who is he?" "No idea, but I'm on it." Clara stared at the screen of her phone for several seconds and then said, "Zane's brother. Well, foster brother. In New York for the weekend, so Zane invited him last minute." As if summoned by his name, Zane appeared at Clara's side and bent to kiss her. Clara caught a handful of his wavy blonde hair and held him still for a longer lip lock. Those two couldn't keep their hands off each other, and it usually made Brittany laugh. Tonight, it made her a little envious. It's been a long damn time since anybody made me want to make out in public. Britt pasted on a smile for the happy couple. I'm shocked Clara doesn't have you decked out in an embroidered suit to match her dress. I don't know what you mean. Zane tucked his hands in his pants pockets, revealing the subtle dark purple detailing on his suit vest. Ha! I knew it! Zane turned a besotted expression to his soon-to-be wife. Come on. I want to introduce you to my favorite brother, Xavier. He arched a brow at Britt, crystal gray eyes gleaming. Want to meet him? The ladies love him. I find that hard to believe. No, thanks. She pushed away from the bar. I have a party to run. The glorious ass he'd caught himself admiring to the point of crudeness was even more incredible when it was in motion. He'd recognized amusement in the woman's gaze when she caught him staring, and it had made him want to smile back at her, to walk over there and introduce himself, to see if he could parlay getting busted ogling her into an invitation. But then he'd remembered the insults leveled at him by the Kids on Track vetting committee this afternoon. Playboy, philanderer, womanizer, Lothario. Who even used that word? All ridiculous, of course. So what if Xavier preferred to keep his romantic entanglements to a single night? That had nothing to do with the time he'd like to donate to Kids on Track, the notoriously closed-door educational nonprofit with the biggest budget in the city. The world was changing, had changed. Kids on Track could do so much more to help marginalized children if they entered this century. They needed someone like him, even if they didn't know it. But they hadn't been nearly as interested in his technical prowess as they had been in his sex life. Xavier knew just how they'd gotten their information. Jeremy Moore. How had he not known his old rival was on the committee? Too bad they couldn't settle this the way they had in college, on the basketball court. It was also unfortunate that Jeremy's new wife was one of Xavier's favorite hot memories. They'd parted on good terms, or so he thought, and he'd been invited to the wedding. He hadn't gone, of course. He hated weddings. But he'd sent an expensive gift, and he hadn't thought anyone was holding a grudge, until now. Making business personal was low, even for Jeremy. The committee's ideas about what they wanted in a candidate were as antiquated as their tech stack. Family values, settled, stable home life. As if being married guaranteed stability and good values? Ridiculous. Xavier had grown up in foster care because when his mother died of cancer, his father killed himself. Their settled, stable commitment to each other sure hadn't worked out well, especially for him. In fact, most of the kids who had shared his foster home had come from shattered families, many of them created in marriages that never should have happened. Xavier wasn't against the institution. It was fine for most people. But he wasn't interested. A home, money, and children? Sharing forever, based on an emotion? Like that was even realistic. Sharing a bed, now that he could handle, and he indulged as often as possible, with zero guilt, until this afternoon when the committee had slut-shamed him, which was bullshit. But despite Jeremy throwing shade on his lack of family values, the committee had scheduled a second interview with him next month. They were definitely interested, and he wasn't going to let anything fuck this up for him, even if he had to live like a monk for the next month to prove his suitability. Jeremy was not going to steal this ball from him. How hard could it be to give up sex for a month, just to make a point? He knocked back the dregs of his drink and sought out that beautiful ass again. He could imagine exactly how it would feel cupped in his hands as he raised and lowered her. Bro. Xavier turned and saw Zane. He banished his X-rated thoughts and held out his hand, which his foster brother used to pull him into a solid hug. Zane had always been such a contradiction. Always moving, always working, a total scrapper, his favorite of the many that had passed in and out of their eclectic family, but utterly willing to slow down and make time if you needed him. And a hugger. Xavier couldn't believe Zane was marrying the chick who had hollowed him out so bad in high school. A twist ending for sure, but it made sense. Zane never gave up, and he always hit his goal. "Little brother," he said, just to watch Zane scowl. "And fiancé. Introduce me." "You're not the boss of me." Zane's gray eyes glinted with challenge. Xavier bared his teeth. "You're such a pain in my ass." "I'm Clara." Zane's fiancé broke into their customary greeting. She was a stunner, but he knew that from social media. White blonde curls, gorgeous dark blue eyes, a killer body he was not going to check out, and a really great dress, which she had probably made herself from what he gleaned on the internet. "I'm Xavier Rodriguez, Zane's foster brother. Such a pleasure to meet you. How on earth do you put up with him?" "I manage." She had both arms wrapped around Zane's waist. It was obvious these two were happy twined around each other, which was probably why they were having a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. They couldn't bear to be parted even for an evening? To each his own. Xavier forced a smile to hide his discomfort. "Happy looks good on you, bro." "Wish I could say the same. Rough day?" "Rough month. New hotel acquisition in Chicago and a couple other things. Running late because my broker had a property he wanted me to look at across town." He shook his head. This wasn't the time or place to discuss the intriguing brownstone. "No more than usual. Sorry I didn't have time for a haircut." Zane laughed. "Just busting your balls. How long are you in town? Are you staying at the Reverie? I don't know why you'd want to stay in your swanky hotel on Times Square when you could have my couch." "I think you just answered your own question." The way those two were stuck together told Xavier he wouldn't get any sleep bunking on the couch in Zane's tiny apartment anyway. "Thanks, but I'll stick with my hotel. Wouldn't want to cramp your style." Xavier winked at Clara, who blushed. Zane grinned. "Can we catch up later? One-on-one? Or we could swing by the community center for old time's sake and play ball with Mr. B." Xavier felt a stab of regret. He missed the old man who had given him his first laptop and opened up a whole new world for him. He'd used that computer to find scholarships to college and graduate school in Chicago, where he'd made his home and a small fortune acquiring hotels. But now he was ready to come home. "I'm gone tomorrow, but I'll be back next month. Maybe for good. If I can nail that second interview." Zane's eyes lit up. "Seriously? That's awesome. You can come to the wedding then." "Sounds great," Xavier replied, stifling a wince. "Bullshit," his brother snorted. "I know you hate weddings, but I'm holding you to it. Frankly, I'm shocked you're here tonight. I bet you last an hour, tops." Xavier shrugged. "For you, I'll stay too. And it's not because I want another look at that stunner in the black dress. 2 hours would be perfect. I need a favor. Can you get Mom out of here before the burlesque dancers start circulating through the crowd? It might get wild later and she'll get that horrified look on her face." "No problem. I'm on it," Xavier promised. "Thanks, bro." Zane's gaze turned sly. "Getting her out of here before the entertainment begins is in your best interest anyway. You'll probably leave with one of the girls, or several. Mom doesn't need to witness that action." And that, right there, was entirely likely, and the exact reason the committee thought he was unsuitable. "Heads up," Clara warned. "The delicate lady in question just walked in." "Very nice to meet you, Clara." Xavier slid off his bar stool and challenged Zane. "Race you?" As he wound his way through leather booths and distressed wood tables, pride filled him. Parties weren't his thing, but he could tell this was a good one. The guests were smiling and laughing. A happy buzz energized the packed room. His little brother had worked his butt off in a restaurant during high school. Now he owned several of his own, and had made quite a name for himself. Standing room was elegant without feeling stuffy, with recessed stained glass bulbs in the ceiling and gorgeous pendant lights over the tables. The tile floor was flecked with gold and shimmered under his feet. The walls were painted a rich, dark red, and iconic scenes of New York decorated the walls. But the real showpiece was the enormous bar where he'd spent the last hour. Marble and wood, with the most comfortable bar stool he'd ever parked his butt on. Every bottle under the sun lined the wall behind the bar, including the rare bourbon he'd requested for his Manhattan. Yes, Zane had done very well for himself. He glanced over his shoulder to see if Zane was catching up with him, and spotted his brother talking to a man in a purple suit. His brother subtly flipped him the bird, and Xavier felt the first real smile of this shitty day split his face. He was home. He was glad to be here, and he'd prove it by sticking around long enough to make sure their mother left before things got scandalous. If he happened to catch a few more glimpses of that world-class ass, no one could blame him for looking. From here on out, the kids on track vetting committee would find zero fault with his behavior. He was turning over a new leaf, right here, right now, and he'd show them a brand new man next month. Chapter 2. Clara and Zane's party was going off without a hitch, even though Britt hadn't quite managed to recover her joie de vivre. How had one curt glare from a stranger catapulted her into a mire of self-doubt? She knew the answer. The doubt was already there. She covered it up, but it required belief to keep it hidden. Or denial. It was easy to pretend when she saw her bulletproof illusion reflected in the gazes of those around her. She was very good at pretending. The only person who could see through her cheery disguise was Clara. But Clara loved her, and would let her fake it. For now. However, Zane's brother must have a flawless bullshit detector. He'd been staring holes in her all night. Whether he'd seen through her cheerful act or not, she felt like he had. And every time she caught him looking, she felt naked, stripped of the beautiful layers she put between her and the world. Like she had "lone rejected" stamped across her forehead, or maybe "bad risk." She needed to keep this party rolling, and figure out a plan B for supporting herself until she could get her business off the ground. But it was difficult to smile and laugh when all she could think about was doors closing in a long hallway that led to her parents' chilly house. She resolved not to meet his stare again. In fact, she would avoid looking at him, which meant she had to keep track of him, so she didn't accidentally see him. Fortunately, he made it easy by staying at a table with an older woman she assumed was his foster mother, and then heading back to the bar. While Britt ran around making sure the buffet stayed stocked with the guests' favorites, the bartender didn't run out of booze, and the burlesque dancers kept the crowd entertained. Anna's troupe was killing it, circulating through the crowd, doing impromptu performances. A few performers were dancing with the guests and teaching a few of the simpler moves. The sequins and beads on their costumes sparkled, flashing every color of a brilliant sunset. Brittany watched one of the guests peel a borrowed glove so slowly that her date dropped heavily into a chair and fanned himself with a napkin. Brittany caught Anna's eye and grinned, clapping silently in approval. She'd booked the troupe for the party after taking classes for fun over the summer, but she hadn't known if her idea of interactive performance would be a hit. Maybe she should consider writing bachelor and bachelorette parties into her business plan. My rejected business plan. She abruptly remembered, and flinched. Quit it, she told herself. The party was going great, even if Zane's brother's intense gaze made her feel like he was waiting for her to screw up. For a guy who had sneered at her when she smiled at him, he sure did like looking. What the hell was wrong with him? Most mama's boys had a little more respect for women. She was tempted to abandon her avoidance strategy and march over there to give him a piece of her mind. Maybe I should. The party was almost over, and despite her unruly emotions, she'd pulled it off. A few servers circulated with desserts. The bartender was setting coffees on fire right and left. The girls were gearing up for their final number. She'd signed all the invoices. Her job was done. The tiny hairs on the back of her neck rose, and tension rolled across her shoulders, telling her he was looking at her. Again. Her jaw locked. Enough. She turned toward the bar. "Britt!" The shout came from the small stage next to the band. Anna beckoned to her. "Come on!" She struck a hip-cocked pose that was pure dare in physical form, and picked up the microphone. "Brittany, stage right. Oh, Brittany, we're playing your song." Brittany recognized the teasing strains of the final number from her burlesque class performance. She shook her head, making a shooing motion at her former instructor. Anna's bright auburn hair was swept into a mass of curls held in place by strategically placed rhinestone combs. Her costume was deep orange. Jewels and beads covered the bodice. The short, fringed skirt flirted with the top of her thighs. A brilliant red scarf adorned her proud shoulders and elegant neck. The other dancers were all clad in shades of fire, and Brittany's little black dress would stick out like a sore thumb. "No way," she mouthed. Britt gestured at what she was wearing and shook her head. She was not getting up on that stage. Anna spoke into the microphone. "Girl, we picked this last number for you, and we brought you a costume. You know what that means." She bent and picked up an enormous fan made out of peacock feathers. "Do I have to drag you up here?" Anna would, too. She'd been a relentless taskmaster in class, demanding, exacting, and brilliant. She was fearless, notorious for improvising on stage, and challenging the troupe to develop new routines on the fly. Unlike Brittany, who preferred to practice until she could nail every combo in her sleep and then perform it flawlessly on stage, the exact same way every time, relaxing in perfection. The girl sashayed to the back of the stage, bent, and picked up several more giant feathered fans hidden behind the small platform. Oh no. "Transformation time." Anna settled the microphone in the stand and tossed a smile over her shoulder. "I'll be right back, girls." Brittany's heart galloped, pumping adrenaline through her veins. They'd practiced this bit during class, but she'd always been the one holding a fan, never the one hidden in the middle doing a lightning-fast costume change. But she wasn't going to get out of this gracefully. Not when Anna had that look on her face. Should she do it? She knew this number backward, forward, and every measure in between. She'd made sure of it before the performance that marked the end of the class. As for the costume change, the crowd would love it, even if she screwed it up. She hated making mistakes. But she didn't know many of the guests here tonight except the bride and groom. And publicity hound Zane hadn't invited any press as far as she could tell, so she wouldn't land in the paper. It was unlikely she'd be recognized. Not that she cared if her parents or anyone else found out about her hobby. Her neck prickled again. What a jerk. There was one person in the crowd who would likely disapprove. But she wasn't going to disappoint Anna and the girls just because Mr. Judgy was watching. She shrugged off the tension clinging to her shoulders and dropped into the slow roll of the music. Since Anna was playing the temptress, Brittany slipped into the role of bashful ingenue. Chin tucked, lashes lowered, shy smile in place. She danced a few cautious steps toward Anna, and then stopped, fidgeting with her dress, drawing attention to all the places it covered. Anna instantly picked up on the cue and flashed a victorious grin. She prowled forward, slowly, teasingly slipping her scarf from her shoulders. Brittany knew what was coming. Even so, the sensual pleasure of the silky scarf encircling her arm caught her off guard.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?